DW Africa Link.
Nigeria, Africa's largest oil producer, should be a powerhouse of energy independence. Instead, it's spending billions importing fuel while its own refineries sit idle. Nigeria's huge Dangote Petroleum refinery announced that it was temporarily suspending fuel sales in the local naira currency to avoid a mismatch between sales in naira and purchases of crude in dollars. How did we get here? And what does this mean for businesses, inflation, and the everyday Nigerian struggling with rising costs? Today, we dive deep into Nigeria's fuel import crisis, its economic impact, and whether there's a way out of this dependency. Let's get into it. Stay tuned. My name is Josephine Mahachi. Welcome to Africa Link, the podcast that connects you to the stories that matter from Africa.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
Importing isn't always a good sign for African economies, but Nigeria's soaring fuel imports seem to be having an iconic upside. In 2024 alone, the country spent a staggering 15 trillion naira, that's about 10 billion US dollars on fuel imports, the highest in its history. While this raises concerns about foreign exchange and local refinery capacity, experts argue that increased imports drive competition and push fuel prices down, easing inflation for ordinary Nigerians. The big question, though, is, should Nigeria keep relying on imports to stabilize prices or focus on domestic refining? Joining me to discuss this are Dr. Taofiq Raimi, a development expert and policy analyst, and DW's correspondent, Chinaza Samuel. I'll start with you, Dr. Raimi. You are an expert, a business economist, and policy analyst. Can you explain to us what is happening in Nigeria in terms of the high fuel imports?
Quite correctly, the National Bureau of Statistics in Nigeria had recently provided a report that shows that Nigeria is still importing fuel products from abroad. At another time, they have put it at about 15.42 trillion naira, which was imported last year, 2024. This is despite the fact that we now have private domestic refinery refining our crude oil in Nigeria in the name of Dangote Refinery, which commenced full operation last year. Of course, many would have thought that with the NNPC, which is the government-owned refinery coming on stream, that is Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation Company Limited, coming on restarting production last year. From out of their 4 refineries in Nigeria, I'm talking of Port Harcourt and Warri, even though they have not fully commenced operation to their capacity. It would have been expected that fuel importation would have reduced. But before I go into reasons why we are still importing fuel in Nigeria, it is better as a development expert, a business economist, and a policy analyst to dwell below the surface of the figure that has just been provided by the National Bureau of Statistics. It is true, when you look at the surface, the 15.42 trillion naira reported for the imported fuel last year, 2024, is the highest in terms of naira. But fuel importation, like most international trade, is not done in naira currency. It's done in dollar. So the question to ask is, how much is this 15.42 trillion that was used in naira in terms of dollar that was spent on fuel importation last year? It does still, because the expectation of majority of the key stakeholders in the industry is that because we have now started local refinery of our own crude, we shouldn't be importing as much. So why are we still importing so much fuel into Nigeria? Number one, NNPC which has 4 refineries and has recommenced production of refining of crude products in their refinery, have not fully gotten to their capacity. In Port Harcourt, for instance, which is built to refine about 210,000 barrels per day, they are simply doing less than a quarter of that, about 60,000. The local refinery, the private refinery, Dangote, which has capacity of refining 650,000 barrels per day, is still unable to do so due to several factors. First of all, no adequate crude is provided. In fact, Dangote had to be importing crude from America, from Nigeria, and recently he has signed a pact with Equatorial Guinea to give crude. Number 2, the major oil marketers are also importing crude, refined product, because some of them already have a existing agreement for importation. Secondly, they also argue that some of these imported fuel are cheaper than what they could get either from NNPC in Nigeria or from the private refinery Dangote. Number 3, there is some element of sabotage among some of these stakeholders, believing that they are in business and they can get this product from wherever it is cheaper for them. So these are some of the factors, and I think as we go on, I can also provide some expertise discovery why we are where we are.
So for us, Dr. Raimi, just to take this discussion stage by stage, for also our listeners who might not be from Nigeria to really slowly grasp this explanation. I mean, even as you were rolling out the billions and the billions, my head was like, this is just too much figures for me to understand. But talking about Dangote, we are recording this podcast on a day that he's actually announced the suspension of sales of petroleum products for the domestic market after negotiations over naira arrangement stall. However, I keep hearing you referring to Nigeria, to Dangote as well as being a solution. You're talking of other plans to also come up, BUA, etc. But what does this suspension really mean for Nigeria?
You have really asked a very, very critical question there. It is concerning that some of the new policies that the current administration has come up with, especially at the president level, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, intervened in providing what I would call ease of doing business for Dangote private refinery last year through a program called Naira for Crude, whereby Dangote is being given crude through NNPC using naira instead of having to scamper for dollar to purchase this crude. However, we realized that that agreement or policy was to last only for 6 months. 6 months expire 2025. The implication now is that Dangote just yesterday came up with that issued a statement that they might not be able to also give or sell to independent or their own marketers using naira as a medium of exchange, because they are also not getting this crude from NNPC anymore using naira. The implication, like you have asked, is that the price of if we use dollar as for this exchange, the cost at which the fuel pump, which has come down more than 3 times since last year, when it first went to the roof. Sometimes last year it went as high as 1,095 naira per liter at the pump, which is equivalent to about $71. But it came down to this month to about 880 naira per liter, which is equivalent to about $52 per liter. The implication now is that if this naira exchange does not continue and some other factors also remain constant, the pump price of this important product to Nigeria will now increase. This is why most of us are asking that government, NNPC, the president's intervention should continue. They should renew the naira for crude in order that the cost at which eventual refined product is given to Nigeria will be cheaper.
Right, right. I mean, we also here at DW Africa, we have our eyes and ears on every country in the continent. Now, coming to you, Chinaza Samuel, our correspondent in Nigeria, just in a nutshell, if you can just tell us about the current fuel situation in Nigeria.
Okay, well, thank you, Josie. Well, what I can tell you about the fuel situation in Nigeria is that at the moment, fuel is expensive here in Nigeria. We're talking between 900 per liter to over 1,000 in different parts of Nigeria, depending on where you are staying. And I honestly don't know how much longer Nigerians can take this, to be honest, because the cost of living at the moment is insane, and fuel prices are a huge part of it. Every time petrol prices go up, transport goes up, food become more expensive, businesses struggle. You know, just life gets harder generally. It's like Nigerians are in this ending cycle of suffering, and the government keeps telling us to be patient. There's going to be it's going to get better. Now, you heard Dr. Raimi tell us that the National Bureau of Statistics says Nigeria spent about 15.42 trillion naira. That's a lot of money. What I understand as a Nigerian is that the government is spending more on fuel than on education, on healthcare, and even fixing our road. And the more we import, the more we need foreign currencies, which makes the naira weaker. And when the naira is weaker, prices of everything just goes up. Businesses, families need to spend more money, and it's just crazy. And you know what's more annoying or mind-boggling about this whole thing is that we've been hearing that our local refineries will work, yet we're importing fuel. So it's a big question. Why are we still dependent on imported fuel when we have crude oil? We believe that if our refineries were working, we would not be spending trillions importing fuel. There's a lot of frustration actually going on, especially with this morning where we're reading that the Dangote's decision to stop selling fuel in naira. Well, that refinery, there was so much hope, there was so much optimism that things are going to get better. Now people are very worried that fuel prices will go up again, which will make transport more expensive, food more expensive, literally everything more expensive. So there is palpable tension at the moment that fuel prices will go up again, and it's very worrisome.
Right. I mean, obviously, all of us had so much hope in the Dangote refinery and thinking not just about Nigeria, but also him, exporting some of this crude oil to other neighboring or rather African countries, Chinaza. But, you know, when even Dr. Raimi was mentioning these trillions, and you also, when Nigerians are talking about these figures, it's just like you're saying $2, you know, but this is a huge amount of money. And these figures from the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, Chinaza, do they mean anything to the ordinary Nigerian?
Honestly, these numbers don't mean much to the average Nigerian, because you wake up and our money is disappearing faster. When you wake up one morning, transport fares have doubled, or you go to the market, what you bought yesterday becomes twice as much expensive as you want to buy it. Really, as a regular Nigerian, which I'm allowed to speak as one now, you don't care about the statistics. You just know that life has become harder. So I guess it does mean something, but for an average Nigerian who just wants to afford the basic things, go about their normal businesses without having to spend so much, it may not mean so much.
So, Dr. Raimi, do you think that NNPC has been the one sabotaging Aliko Dangote?
I would say that they are trying to create competition. Is he healthy? Is another question.
In what way? Competition in what way? When you say they prefer importing, that it will be better for them to actually expand. And when you have a Nigerian who's saying we can do it all, we can do it at home.
Yeah, the argument, I think there are two arguments they put up over time. Number one, they don't want a monopolistic market. And quite all right, we all know the implication when a particular product or good and services is in the hand of only one manufacturer. One can say, based on economic theory and business knowledge, that yes, we should have many players in the marketplace. Number two, they are also saying that as of today, Dangote herself is not producing to capacity. To be able, it has not fully, of course, it has its store capacity to meet our domestic needs, but it has not, as of today, been able to do that. So it's a delicate balance. Dangote will be given all support that is required to succeed, to be resilient, and to survive in this oil business. I'm also saying that we need more players, but more, not just for importation, but to do our own local refinery. I'm asking even President Trump of America to send his people, because we have 38 billion barrels of untouched crude on the ground in Nigeria. I'm asking the Saudis, I'm asking even other countries in the world to come and invest in this sector. This based on the current federal government policies.
But how can you, Dr. Raimi, how can you be calling for Trump, the Saudis, other nations to come and invest in this sector when the local man who's trying to do this is being sabotaged? In just 2 months already, he's pulling out, he's suspending sales. Even though I think in the last 2 months, in the space of 2 months, Nigerians were actually recording noticeable reduction in fuel prices. And I think for those 2 months or so, it meant something. But now you're inviting outsiders, the likes of Trump, when Dangote himself, who is a citizen of Nigeria and a Nigerian, has not been able to operate in this sector. Freely, rather.
Thank you very much. It's an important question. I am saying that we can use one stone to kill two birds. You understand? That is to say, while we are giving all the necessary support, both government and, especially government and NNPC, while we are giving all necessary support to Dangote to succeed, we still need more investment, in this industry. Yes, I agree that some people have argued that there is some element of sabotage on the part of NNPC acting for government against Dangote. This cannot be factually established, and like I told you as an expert, we talk based on empirical findings. Are you getting me? I've also asked Dangote also to also engage government more in proper communication. You understand? There is the need for more synergy and communication, even between Dangote and NNPC.
Just to come back to you, Chinaza, also for us to involve citizens in this discussion, you speak to a lot of people in Nigeria. What are they making of these high imports and calls for improvement, especially in the local refinery capacities?
Well, the feeling is that Nigerians are very tired of this whole cycle. I've said it before that it looks like an unending cycle. 1 minute you're hearing fuel prices are reducing, everybody's happy, the queues are reducing, you go to buy fuel, you don't have to stand in a queue for hours. And another day you go back to the fuel station, the products are not available, there's queues, the price has gone up again. So people are not really happy. And we're all hoping that the government can quickly fix this. And one thing I think that we're not emphasizing here well enough is the fact that there are local refineries here. I keep wondering why it's so difficult for these local refineries to work. Nigerians think that or believe that if these refineries were working, maybe things would be better, the cost of buying fuel would reduce significantly, and maybe life generally would be easier for people. But there's no quick fix to this thing in my assessment. I think the very first thing will be, of course, to fix the refineries. And then there's also alternatives like the compressed natural gas as CNG and electric vehicles. That's not going down too well with people because we've had cases where CNG vehicles blow up and people are very scared. I would be very scared to enter a CNG powered vehicle here in Nigeria because I don't know what's going to happen. I've had cases where it explodes, but people just want this thing to end as soon as possible. If the prices can be a bit stable, if we're buying for 800 naira, let's know we're buying for 800 naira. If we're buying for 1,000 naira, a little bit of stability would go a long way in helping Nigerians, because really businesses are suffering, transportation, everything is suffering at the moment because there's no stable price of fuel. It's 1,000 naira here. In Lagos, it's 800 naira. In East, is 700 naira. Different prices.
And how are they charging this according to the exchange rate on that particular day? Because I know when I visit Nigeria, every time in the morning, you are hearing different exchange rates and things are priced differently. So is it the same with fuel as well?
I just think it's just how people behave. You go to this filling station, this fuel station, it's a different price. You go to the next one, it's a different price. And then you go to the southeastern part of Nigeria, it's a different price. I don't know what informs those prices, but it's what it is. If you're not buying, you go away. You go to the north, it's a different price. If you will not buy, you go away. You go to the west, it's a different price. If you're not buying, you go away. That's just what it is. And nobody's really doing anything about it in my assessment. The people selling the prices will tell you there's a reason why their prices are sold this way. And you honestly cannot do anything about it. We need fuel to run businesses, and people don't have a choice most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Now, Chinaza, who do you think stands to benefit in all this? I mean, this whole crisis. I mean, the government by now should have done something about this. Like you're saying, you're in the north, the price is different in the east, in the south, in Lagos. Who's benefiting from all this, in your opinion?
Definitely not the ordinary Nigerian. We're not benefiting. I'm not benefiting from this. I'm paying 2 times the amount to go out. I now have to, consider the places I will go to. If it's going to cost me this amount, I'm not going to go. So it's not the ordinary Nigerian benefiting from this. I think the fuel importers, because as long as we're importing fuel, they are making profit. I think the forex dealers, since we need dollars to buy food, so people who control foreign exchange, I think they benefit from this. Government officials and oil industry insiders. I mean, if the local refineries were fully operational, a lot of these middlemen would lose out on the profit, yes? So since the local refineries are not functioning, the fuel importers, the forex dealers, and government officials, they are benefiting from this. It's nothing anyone wants to tell me. Meanwhile, the average Nigerian is struggling. Businesses are struggling. Small traders can't even afford to transport their goods without paying an exorbitant price. And life is just difficult generally.
Right. This now brings me back to you, Dr. Raimi, when I asked the question that, is this the reason why NNPC is pushing more for imports than rather putting policies that everything should be done back at home? We're talking about even the exchange rate depreciation and how it is likely affecting Nigeria's continuous oil imports. There are fears. Naza is a journalist, but she's also a Nigerian who's addressing her fears here and her frustrations. Everything is just expensive.
Let me help a bit to assist NASA about some of the very important questions he has raised in our submission. Why are there differential prices of fuel, across different regions in Nigeria? As she said, she doesn't know why. And I think it has been argued and provided with evidence, is the cost of transporting them across different regions in Nigeria. In Lagos, where petroleum product is cheapest, that's the region where we have it cheapest, is because at the batteries that brings these products to Nigeria, that's where we have the port. So the cost of transportation to distribute this product within Lagos and Sevaro would definitely be cheaper. When you now move out of Lagos to Oyo State, don't let me, because we are talking internationally to our international audience. When you now distribute this product across other states surrounding Lagos, it is they are the second cheapest in terms of price. The more you now come using tanker, because that is the truck that convey this product from Lagos now to far north or to the east, the cost of transportation for this product to those filling stations across this other far end of Nigeria. Nigeria has 36 states and the federal capital. Then the transportation of this truck for those products now add on to what would have been the cost. So that answers the question of why we have differential costs across different filling stations, especially at different regions, zones in Nigeria.
Dr. Taofiq Raimi, a development expert and policy analyst, and DW's correspondent in Nigeria as well, Chinaza Samuel. Many thanks for joining us.
Get the stories that are shaping the continent here on Africa Link.
At the Africa Link podcast, we always look across the continent to see how the stories and issues we are dealing with play out or at times even overlap. Now, while countries like Nigeria and Ghana are struggling to profit from oil production, their neighbor further north, Libya, has reaped enormous benefits. Libya's daily crude oil production has reached 1.5 million barrels, while gas production was recorded at 200,000 barrels of oil equivalent, putting them at the top among African countries. This success story from Libya is not just a story. It's a beacon of hope for Nigeria to learn oil production. That's it for this edition of Africa Link. Remember, you are not just a listener, but a crucial part of our community. And your engagement with us can shape the direction of our discussions. We value your insights and encourage you to share your thoughts with us. Remember, you can find all of the Africa Link podcast episodes on Spotify and Apple. This podcast was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabi. My name is Josie Mahachi. Thanks for listening. Until the next one, it's bye for now.